I'm Sonya Morton Firth and you're watching the Sonya Morton Firth Show. My guest today is Kat Byles. During her successful career, she worked with some of the biggest names in sports. She helped 250,000 homeless people through a charity linked to UEFA. Now Kat works between Antigua and London and helps people connect their business leading from the heart. Kat, tell me a little bit about your journey and where you got to the point where you got to burnout when you were in your early 40s. How did that happen?
So how it happened? I think when I look back actually, I think what happened was I was a classic overgiver. So I was working initially in PR, where I was working with PR with a positive purpose. So always with businesses that had a purpose beyond profit. And that was right at the beginning when that was like a burgeoning sector. Now that the purpose economy is worth about £100 billion in the UK alone.
100 billion,
I know.
Right. So that's actually a business rather than...
It's an industry. So, and you see like the millennial generation coming through, and now they all want to work in alignment with their purpose. Well, not all, but there's a big theme of that within the millennial generation. So we were kind of I felt like we were part of the pioneers of that. Anything I tend to do is pioneering. And then one of the projects that came along was the Homeless World Cup, which was using football. And again, that was pioneering because it was using sport to create social transformation.
Tell me about that, because that sounded so interesting.
It was great fun, a little bit bonkers as well. But we were inviting people who are homeless to play football, represent their country, come to a World Cup in a different country each year. So we were in Milan, Cape Town, Copenhagen, Rio, Paris, Edinburgh. And just recently it was in Cardiff. And
so it's still going?
It's still going. Yeah, it's still going. And in the period of time I was there, we worked with maybe about 250,000 people coming off drugs and alcohol, reuniting with families, which was one of the bits that I really loved, and regaining their self-respect. They'd often go to the Homeless World Cup, really have a life-changing experience by seeing that, they would meet people who were homeless from all over the world. So we would have people in South Africa that, white people were homeless and black people wow, white people can be homeless. Yeah, so there was lots of, it changed a lot of patterning, which I loved as well. But after 6 years of doing that, it's quite tricky as well for me. I found it hard being with, people who experienced abuse from their families, or the impact of genocide, or it's quite underbelly of humanity. And after 6 years of that, you're like, I need a break.
And did you get any sort of counselling or help?
No.
Through that?
And looking back, at the time, I think what we should have had as a team actually was counsellors. If that, as an organisation, we'd had counsellors and support, we needed support to do that job. Completely. So after being on planes and physically running around the world, and then the spiritual and emotional aspect of that, I've just found myself, I had nothing left to give. And this cycle of giving and receiving, I was just giving out, and not receiving back. And I see that as quite a common pattern. The people that I work with, mainly women that have ended up followed that path. It's quite funny because I work with women after they've gone through the burnout and they've done the healing, and then what they want to reconnect with who they are now and what they want to create now. And then you often find like later on they'll say, "Oh yeah, I burnt out," and you're like, "Oh yeah," there's like a common thread between us all that at some point in the traditional business sector, working in that very sort of masculine-driven way, pushing, making things happen, feeling like you've got the weight of the whole organisation on your shoulders and pushing the sun up, what I mean? Leaning in, manifesting, meeting your goals, all of that, single-minded focus. And you're like, in that, we're human beings with souls,
we have to take on a certain amount of masculinity to be there,
exactly,
and to literally to fight in that sort of space. I think,
and it did feel like a fight, and that's so it was very stressful. It felt like a fight. You felt very under-resourced all the time. Big issue, 1 billion people homeless, and you're this tiny little organisation, and taking on the world, and also there was like very little appreciation, and you're dealing with quite tricky issues. So
Yeah,
often, often trauma, often egos that so it wasn't very, it was hard.
And was it the sports industry that was backing this?
It was. We had brilliant backing. Nike were amazing. I have to say, I loved working with Nike because they were very much, okay, what is the vision? What end result would you love? Okay, how can we help you? How can we help you get there? And that support was just amazing, like to have that, okay, what do you need? And anything that they could provide, they would, kind of thing, so that you really felt that they were in with you. UEFA, again, amazing. They were like, we respect your vision, you know what you're doing, here's our backing. And that was really lovely to have too. So that's the kind of support I think that you really need if you want to do great things, big things. You have to have the people that really support the vision and are in the end result with you.
And did they ever have like our footballers, professional footballers?
Yeah, I mean, they
there,
did. Yeah, we did. We had,
up?
we had, Eric Cantona.
Yes.
He was lovely. He had 3 days with Eric Cantona in Denmark, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and he came and spent 3 days of his own time with the players. Yeah. And, talking to them, playing football with them, training with them. And there was one beautiful moment where there was a Danish goalkeeper saved a goal that Eric, tried to score a goal, and he saved it. And he was like, saved the goal from Eric Cantona. We were all laughing. There was like lots of lovely moments like that. He was a great person to have. And they did an interview with him, like all the players, and they were like, who's your hero? And he's like, myself in the morning. Yeah. So he was really, great fun character to have around as well. He was someone who just got right in and joined right in with what we were doing rather than, sometimes people can try and steer your vision. They think they know better, or, they've come for their own egoic accolades or something like that. Yeah. They want their name on a project. We had a few of those, and I find that they're the ones that they're too costly to have around if you're doing a project, like that. The money that they give is too expensive.
Yes, for what they're actually giving that.
Yeah, they need too much for themselves. Yeah.
So was at this stage you just done this huge thing with the homeless, the 250,000, and then you reached this burnout stage? Yeah,
after 6 years of running around the world, different countries, and doing a World Cup each year with 48 countries involved, I was like,
And how did that feel? How did you know you were burnt out?
Literally, I describe it as like putting my foot on the accelerator of a car and there's just nothing. It's just
no
not
gas,
moving.
Nothing.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, you've got literally, and oh God, how did that feel? Actually, it was quite frightening. After I realised that I needed to then step away and just, I sort of had an insight about a year before that my time at the Homeless World Cup was done. So I started putting all the structures in place for me to be able to exit. And then I was kind of left feeling sort of empty, really confused, totally exhausted. Unclear about any direction. I didn't know what I was going to do next, so that can be quite frightening. And then I had this shame that came up that I shouldn't have allowed myself to get in this situation. I shouldn't have burnt out. I should have been stronger, fitter, more capable, all of that came up. And that was quite interesting. And then it was when I watched a movie about the Pixar team who made Toy Story and Toy Story 2. And the whole team burnt out after Toy Story 2. And they had to have a year off. None of them could work for a year. And I was like, oh, this is like a thing.
Yeah, you've just done this huge, massive project running around the world. And then, no wonder.
And then I started researching it. And it's like, wow, actually, it's, it costs, I think it's ridiculous. Something like $60 billion a year. To the industry as a whole, it causes anxiety, depression, stress. It's actually a thing.
Mental health issues all around.
Exactly, and then you're like, oh, and the World Economic Forum are describing burnout as a global pandemic in business. And you're like, hang on, guys, we're doing this wrong. Let's just back up.
I mean, I was in the finance industry for 20 years, and there was a lot of burnout there, and people just pushed through it.
That's
they pushed through it for the money.
Yeah,
and it's like, that's not going to help you at the end of the day when you're on your deathbed.
You feel like you're stuck because you've got a mortgage, you've got a family, so you have to keep going, and then eventually something snaps.
But don't you think that's society tricking us into the fact that we need more money than we actually need to survive?
definitely. The burnout gave me space. I had to stop. I had no option to stop. And that gave me a chance to then give the space for like these questions to come through. Like, well, if we want to make a contribution and make a difference, how do I do that and look after my well-being? And all of these sorts of questions started to come up. And then, the research as well into burnout had a bit of a space to see, the management structures in business that cause burnout versus the ones that create wellness and thriving. So when I was younger, I did in my degree was looking at business structures and whether they allowed your creative spirit to thrive. So for me, my passion is the creative spirit and allowing that to move through you, work through you, create through you. And for me, that's become like the universal energy of life itself, like that goes through the trees and the stars and the seas. And when we work with that energy of life itself, we have wellness, we feel fulfillment, we have total abundance, we have everything we need. And I'm really starting to have an experience of that now. I used to think it was kind of like a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's out there. You sort of believed it, but unless
that sounds very nice, but to actually, and you don't need as much as you think. My life is simplified to the point now where I live in a little village in the Caribbean on the sea.
So tell me about that. So
that's all what I need.
At what point did you go to Antigua? Because you're now living Antigua, running this amazing business. At what point did you go there?
Yeah, so I literally was still putting my foot down about 3 years after the Home Soul Cup. Foot on the accelerator, still no gas. And I was like, oh my God, am I actually broken? And my intuition, I'd started doing some training then about, using your intuition to create transformation and change and your imagination and connecting with your superconscious. And it was my intuition that kept showing me like a sunbed on a white beach with turquoise seas.
Tell me about that stage, actually, because I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it's like a new vision started to come through, isn't it?
How did you sort of tap into that intuition? Was it a course?
I did. I did a course, The Transformation with Darren Eden. But I also did a training with Catherine Woodward-Thomas and Claire Zammit. Catherine Woodward-Thomas did the conscious uncoupling and calling in the one.
Yes.
So she's a rape relationship. But they were like doing work about intimacy and listening to your own inner landscape, if you like. And then the Darren Eden was really about, your own hero's journey and how you create the life that you're called to live. So the two together really... and they use a simple process of connecting to your intuition where you just acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and then you step into innocence, which takes you beyond those thoughts and feelings and what your mind's trying to do and control and all of that into a space of not knowing. And that's when your intuition, you can start to hear it beyond all that noise that goes on.
So is it almost like getting rid of all those preconceptions and sort of thinking about...
So you don't need to get rid of them. It's just like, they're there. That's okay. And what's beyond that? Let's, when you go into a space in meditation and it's calm and peaceful, and it's about listening to that space, like your own sacred heart, the core of your being, rather than your mind chattering
away, saying, you'll never be able to do that. You're too old to redo your
thinking?
whole career.
Who cares anyway?
Money and how you...
all of that. It's exhausting.
Yes.
So yes, that's when I started to have the space in my own, I guess, psyche, if you like, for this new vision to start coming through. And that's when I got guided to go to Antigua. I'd never heard of Antigua. I didn't know where Antigua was or anything. And I just booked a 10-day holiday. And
just like that, you just thought, right, something's saying...
I just was really clear to go there. And so by this time I was just following what I was, because I had no option. It's like, this seems to be the only place that was taking me anywhere, beyond this burnout space. And I had a lovely time there for 10 days, just following my intuition every day. And then what happened was once it brought my wellness back, I started to feel like it was creating through me and with me. So it was a completely creative renaissance.
So you stayed there?
I went back for a month and stayed there for a month and had no agenda other than I was just told to come back for a month. It felt like I was told to come back. So I went back for a month in June, which is off season. So there's no, it's not the main tourist season. It's quiet. And I just got up with the sunrise and went to bed with the sunset, you know, and just got into the rhythm with nature. And that was the game changer for me. Whenever I hear people tired, burnt out, I'm like, just go and find yourself, you know, get into nature, go to the trees, go to, there's an amazing guy I connected with recently, Wallace J. Nichols, I don't know if you know him, he's got the Blue Mind. He talks about the power of water to take us into a place of, you know, how you feel calm and serene by water. So he talks about Blue Mind medicine, you know, for when we're dealing with anxiety and stress and burnout. Burnout he calls grey mind, and that stress that we have he calls red mind. So you go to the water and you can come back to yourself and that calm, serene, healthy place that we feel. So I feel like that's what Antigua is for me.
So living in Antigua sounds amazing, sounds beautiful.
It is.
What would you say to all those people out there that, you know, they say, well, that all sounds all well and good, but I've got a mortgage, I've got kids, I've got these responsibilities, I've got to get up and go to work. Yet they're stressed, and you know they're on the verge of burnout.
I have some dear people in my life that are like that right now. Teachers, you know, and they have a family and they're providing the income for their family, and yet they're absolutely at the point. I can see, you know, they're literally at that point of it's going to break if something doesn't change. And I think the first thing is just to acknowledge it, because I think we, you know, like you're saying, just ignore it, you know, push through.
Yes,
push
have
through.
a bottle of wine, have a glass of wine, it'll go away.
Acknowledge it, you know, recognise that. Okay, and rather than just think, nothing, everything's stress, just see it as an invitation that life's now inviting you to take a new direction. And start to explore what that direction might be and might look like, and how you can just make small changes to support yourself through that time. You know, like I'm thinking of my sister who's a teacher. She's just got herself a cleaner so she can come home on a Friday and the house is clean. You know, what little things can you do that can support you while you're in this space?
Yeah, completely.
And then recognizing that life is inviting a new direction through you. That's what this is. And to work with that, to invite it in rather than try and suppress it, push it down.
Or fight against
it. Or fight it, Just work with it, listen, get curious about it. And I didn't think I could go to Antigua either, by the way, like when that happened. And it wasn't easy to start with. It was quite difficult. And my family were like, what are you doing? You're behaving like a child. You know, I was getting reaction from people
around.
You're behaving like when you were 18.
You can't just go and have a gap year. You're not 18. Yeah, exactly. No,
So there was lots of pushback. And, you know, so you have to just trust that the direction that life is taking you in is your path. And listening to that and taking that and you know, putting in place the things that can support you to do that.
Do you think that comes with age? Because you hear a lot of people, both men and women, that reach that 40s. It's that typical saying and cliche, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I had a similar thing. And, you know, when I hit 40, that's when I left the corporate world. And I went back, but then now you know, I've left again. And, and I hear a lot of people that reach that point. And I know Wayne Dyer talks about different phases of life.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? They're lovely.
It's beautiful how he says it's you're moving up the stages of enlightenment. If you're
seasons, isn't it, as well as your life?
That's right. Seasons 1, seasons 2, and they're different for men and different for women. Do you think the age has...
Yeah, I do. I'm totally into that. Did you find that your energy changed when you were in your 40s?
Completely.
Mine did.
Completely.
Yeah.
My energy, my whole outlook on
Everything.
life,
Yeah.
what made me happy before wasn't making me happy anymore.
Exactly. And so you have to respond
changed.
to that, don't you? You just have to like reform and restructure, redesign everything. And I absolutely felt like that. And I felt like I didn't have as much energy as I had, you know, this crazy energy where I could run around the world and do all of these things and 6 jobs. I didn't have that kind of energy anymore. But also I didn't want to be like that. I wanted a much deeper connection with like the divine start, even though I'd been sort of struggling to get that in my 20s. And like now that's my starting point. You know, I just want to explore that depth of, you know, relationship with that energy of life.
Tell me about your business, Kat, because now you're helping, you've discovered yourself, but you're now going on and helping others to discover their...
Yeah, I love, I mean, I've always worked with purpose, but now I feel like you come into alignment with your true nature and purpose when you listen to your own inner wisdom and your own heart. That was kind of the piece that was missing for me, I think, before. So working with your own wisdom and listening to that. So now I have like a business model called True Business, where you connect to source, that universal inspiration, and you listen to that through the wisdom of your heart as to who you're here to serve, what your purpose is, what your heart's offering is. So that's the biggest impact that you're going to have with them. And then we put in a prosperity structure for your business so that, you know, what is prosperity for you? Rather than just profit and coin and, you know, working to pay the mortgage, you know, is prosperity for you having time with your family? For me, it's like love, it's my partner, it's
connection,
you know,
to
it's
the people,
nature, my community, it's my creativity. And so I put in a structures that serve that rather than just serve you paying the mortgage. And so that's what true business is about. And you can either come and do that in Antigua, where we literally are working on the beaches and in beautiful places and connecting to your heart and wisdom and all of that, or we can do it online with the True Business School. So I have those two things that work. Either you come into nature and work with me in Antigua, or you come on the, you know, into the True Business School online and do that.
And this is about connecting to your heart.
It is,
so connecting your business to your own inner, what your true purpose is. What happens if you are blocked in that area? So I find a lot of people maybe, I know I was for a long time.
Yeah,
I couldn't gain access to that. It sounds weird, but it's like I felt like my heart was blocked.
Yeah.
Or I'd been so much in my head all my life.
Yeah.
How could I tap into that? How do you sort of go?
For me, that was, I mean, I was the same. Like, I talk about these 5 steps I went through, and the first one was being able to then connect to and listen to my own heart. And I found that my route to that was my imagination, because my imagination took me from sort of my fight, flight responses of, you know, how and the patterns into my creative brain. And that's when I could start to make new connections and created like the space for me to then start hearing this new vision that wanted to come through. And it was really, really like a whisper. It's described as a whisper, isn't it, at the beginning?
Yes.
I was given like 2 words, play and imagination, and that was like my
it keeps coming back to you, doesn't
my
it?
thread that I followed. So that was it, really. It was just working with my imagination and bringing that in. That opened up my heart.
Tell me about some of the successes. Have you had like some breakthroughs or people that had great success?
It's more, what I love is the expansion that comes through when you start working in this way. So, I mean, I always share a couple of stories of, you know, how people come, like there's a wonderful woman, Alison Pilling, and she's a sex educator. She's the founder of Sex School for Grown-Ups. And
Sounds wonderful.
She is awesome, and she's a brilliant speaker. She's a great speaker because she can just talk about it as if it, you know, but she's fun and she's charming, and you know, nothing is taboo, so she's brilliant. So she came, you know, with, I want some articles and some PR for my business, and you're like, okay, yeah, cool, that's your mind. And then when we went into her vision and she started creating in this way with her heart and this energy that wanted to come through her, she created the sex lectures in Manchester, and they've been sold out every single time they do. And they're these pithy 12-minute talks by pioneers in the field of sexuality, relationships and love. And you just think, wow, that is so much more than wanting to write a couple of articles.
Yeah.
You know, she's created this amazing platform for people in that industry to share their pioneering work. And she's, you know, at the heart of that as an advocate for them and as a spokesperson for them, which is so much more. So that's what I love about it. And there's a guy, Simon Hass, who you'd love too. He's the author of the Book of Dharma and Yoga and the Dark Night of the Soul. He's got a really interesting story. When he grew up in monasteries and temples in India when he was a teenager, and studying Sanskrit like you do when you're a kid.
Yeah, as you do, yes.
And he was like, because my background has been PR, so people were coming to me initially for that. And he wanted to do some he wanted people to review his book. And when we went into his heart, what we saw him speaking at festivals to thousands of people, like his soul family. And he's quite an introvert. He's a writer, you know. So
Has he got over that to get up and
Well, this is what happened.
You don't have to be an extrovert to talk on.
No, you don't. But what he described it as, what was challenging just became natural and normal for him, because it's who he is, right? So step by step by step, we created a 3-month speaker program for him around the UK. And then when he'd done that, he was invited to Lithuania, Holland, France. Then this year he was invited by the UN for the International Day of Yoga to speak to them. And he's just come back from Mexico, where he was literally speaking to thousands of people, his soul family. So living that vision because he allowed it to come through him.
Great. Yeah. That sounds amazing. And Kat, where do you see yourself going, say, in the next 5 years? What is your legacy?
It's really funny, isn't it? Because everyone's like, oh, you know, I see my mind's going, oh, you should be building a 6-figure training business, or, you know, like 7-figure. It should be.
Yeah, it's now 7. We've gone from 6 to 7. It's like, where did that suddenly come from?
And you should be, you know, millions of people around the world.
Yeah.
And my heart just takes me more and more into simplicity. You know, my life on the beach in Crab Hill with my partner Trevor, and, you know, me taking people into creativity, and he loves holding the space for people to come into nature and beauty and for them to be happy. And that is it. That's our vision now.
Sounds like a place I'd love to go and tap into some my heart connectivity.
Yeah, so that's my vision now, and that's my guide.
Where can people find out more about you? And we'll put these in the show notes as well.
You can find me at katbyles.com. That's my website. You can find me on Facebook as well, which is True Business with Kat Byles, where I just share like bits that I've found, like, wow, this is amazing.
And if people want to find out about your retreats,
it's all on my website. So you can message me as well. You can contact me at kat@katbyles.com.
And my final question, and I ask this to all my guests, is if you were to write a message in a bottle to be found by future generations, what would that message be?
Oh, it has to be to listen to your own inner wisdom and your own heart, because it knows, like the Steve Jobs quote, I feel like I'm borrowing it, but it literally does know who you are and what you're here to be. And I think we can dismiss that, can't we? We can think, oh, it's just dreams. It's not. It's your guidance system. So listen to that and follow your heart. It takes you exactly where you need to be.
That's beautiful. Kat, thank you so much for being on my show.
Really great.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, there's a new interview out every Monday, so hit subscribe and like, and you'll get it straight into your inbox.